Hello, I'm Todd Phillips, the editor of Canadian Auto Dealer. We're here today with Doug Stevens. He's a futurist, a best-selling author, and the founder of the global consultancy Retail Profit. Doug, thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure, Todd. Thanks for having me.
Well, Doug, you're going to be making a return appearance at the CADA Summit. You spoke in 2016, and I can honestly say, as someone who's attended every single CADA Summit event, you remain one of my favorite speakers. And I know when I talk to dealers, they still talk about the cautionary tale of Netflix versus Blockbuster that you mapped out at that event as well. So we're really excited to hear what you have to say this year. We're not going to cover everything of your topics, but to get a sneak preview, a little tease of what dealers might expect, what have you got lined up for us this year?
Yeah, well, thank you for that, and it's obviously it's a great pleasure to be back, and I think it's fair to say that a little bit has transpired between then and now, including a pandemic along the way. But I think generally speaking, I think we just sit right now on the frontier of an enormous amount of change, and I mean that's sort of stating the obvious. I think we can all feel that all around us. Certainly, demographics are changing rapidly. We're now talking less about millennials and starting to talk a lot more about Gen Z and their unique needs relative to other generations. Certainly, economic change and turmoil all around us, and not the least of which is impacting the auto industry and auto dealers. Societal change, I think we're all wrestling with new societal norms in terms of things like work from home and that sort of thing. But I think one of the biggest challenges and opportunities that sits in front of us right now is the massive amount of technological change and innovation that sits on the horizon. So really going to be digging into that and looking at both the upsides for dealers but also I think, some of the caveats, some of the things that they need to keep in mind, some of the risks that are involved in some of these technologies and how they can go into embarking on them with eyes wide open.
Great terrain to cover. One of those areas that I really want to just explore a little bit is, let's call it machine learning or artificial intelligence. It's starting to impact all aspects of our lives, much beyond just Chat GPT or what we might have seen publicly. And for dealers in particular, it's going to start to have an impact both in, the tools their consumers are using and they're going to be using in their own business. Tell us a bit about your take on that and maybe with that lens of change, how people really need to go into this with eyes wide open and not be as fearful perhaps as some might be, as it stands.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant question. And frankly, that's a big part of what I want to try and address with the group. I think that we hear a narrative today in the media largely centered around the question, is AI good or is AI bad? Is it going to save humanity or is it going to systematically wipe humanity out? This is kind of the narrative. And that takes a lot of oxygen out of what I think is the more important narrative around this technology. That being specifically, what are the potential benefits, not just to humanity, but to business owners, and what are some of the pragmatic risks that they have to be aware of? The way I look at it is this, and this is the way I want to talk to the group about this. The way I look at technology, generally speaking, is I ask three questions. Is it possible? Number one. So when we're talking about things like the capacity of AI to inform the decisions that we're making in our business, or to automate processes within the business, or to find efficiencies within the things that we do operationally every day, what is possible? So let's start there. The next question is, even though something is possible, it doesn't necessarily make it probable. So what's the probability factor that we're actually going to start to see this technology or these technologies, because it isn't simply about AI or machine learning. There are a lot of things going on. What's the probability that these are truly going to impact us, and what does the horizon for that impact look like? But then the third question, I think, is the most important, and that is, it may be possible and it may be probable, but the question is it preferable? Is this something that is going to add value to our business? Is it going to add value to the relationships that we have with consumers? Is it going to add value to our staff culture, to our training programs, to our hiring programs, et cetera? And if so, what are those upsides, right? What can we expect? And then what are the caveats? What are the things that we have to be concerned about? But I think moreover, the most important thing is, what can we do today to begin to plan for that eventuality? What are the steps that we can begin taking today, even if we're not necessarily making big investments or big bets on AI and machine learning today? What are the things that we should be preparing for so that when we do eventually pull the trigger on this technology, we're not starting from a place where we're already behind, but we're poised and we're ready to go?
Well, excellent observation. I look forward to hearing all of that. I'm just going to pivot a little bit to an area that's another core specialty of yours, which is the retail landscape, because that's obviously dealers are retailers. And, you talked a lot really at the previous event about the move at that time to, online sales and such, which seems commonplace now in 2023 post-pandemic. A lot of dealers have pivoted and other brands to managing that sort of online consumer journey. But retailers are really trying to find their way in this new landscape, innovative technology, a changing consumer demand. So are you going to hit on some of those tunes just as retailers, maybe bringing in some of those insights from other industries to help just shed a light or two on what they can expect?
Yeah, and that's a really good question, because again, we have to put technology in some sort of context, right? Otherwise, it just remains sort of this amorphous thing that we either are anxious about or we're worried about. Should we be investing? Should we be embarking on this? Shouldn't we? How would we use it? How is it going to change our business? All of those questions remain, pretty abstract unless we have some way of compartmentalizing the utility of these technologies as it applies to our businesses specifically. So the way I look at it is this, and this is sort of a whole other conversation I've been having with our clients. We live in a world today where fundamentally the old cornerstones of strategy, being price, selection, convenience, those and even product, for that matter, the consumer's access to product, those fundamental cornerstones today, things that we used to basically anchor our business on 30, 40 years ago, those are really non-starters today. The consumer has access to whatever they want. The consumer has access to virtually infinite choice. So the question becomes, well, what is the cornerstone of a strategy? All businesses, including very large businesses today, are having to rethink that. And I see basically 4 areas of new value. Let's call it new value that the dealer or a retailer can bring to their consumer. And that is, you can have cultural value. So you can, as a brand, represent a consumer segment that has sort of a deep collective mindset or shared values. So, it could be that if you're exclusively in the EV market or in the hybrid market, that you have a real environmental cause that underpins what you're doing, and consumers respond to that and feel a sense of tribalness or belonging within that community. The other opportunity is entertainment. Maybe you're a dealer that just by virtue of your customer experience, makes it a truly entertaining exercise to go about buying a vehicle. And most consumers don't associate the purchase of a car with having a lot of fun. So that is a potentially viable strategy. The third element is expertise. It's just simply having the level of expert knowledge that consumers can't get necessarily from watching a YouTube video or Googling something. They really want to talk to someone who can say, I've driven every car. in the showroom. I can tell you firsthand what the experience of driving these cars is like and how those will meet your needs. That's the kind of information consumers are looking for. And then the fourth element is really around design. So it can either be design of the experience, point to someone like a Carvana, for example, that really put the car buying experience under the microscope and came up with something they felt was superior in terms of convenience. Or it's the design of the product itself, that you just simply have something that is highly exclusive, highly proprietary in terms of its technology. Those four areas, culture, entertainment, expertise, or design of product or experience, those four areas are areas where businesses can not only compete, but they can dominate. And they can command higher prices, better margins, greater loyalty from their customers, all of that. So this is a long-winded way of saying, when you're considering which technology should we be investing in, which should we be migrating toward, you have to sort of consider, well, how are we trying to compete? Are we trying to compete on the basis of culture or entertainment or expertise? Because the answer to that question is going to change the complexion of the decisions that I make around not just the technologies I invest in, but how I expect those technologies to add value to my business.
Well, Doug, I can see already you're going to bring the fire on February 14th to Toronto, and we could have talked all day. I've got other questions here, but you know what? I'm going to stop it there because my friends at CADA would be mad if we went over your whole session here prior to this.
I'm sure.
That was tremendous insights for our audience and our broad audience of dealers and suppliers in the space. I really look forward to seeing you again at the summit, and I know our dealers really can't wait to hear some of your thoughts. So.
Likewise. I look forward to being there. Thanks, Todd.